episode of Pop Therapy TV. Today I'm going to be talking all about social anxiety, and I'm also going to talk a little bit about social anxiety disorder or social phobia and what happens when our social anxiety increases so much that it interferes with our day-to-day life. But firstly, everyone experiences a normal degree of social anxiety. So we've all had times where we felt a little bit shy, or maybe we've worried about what others think of us. We might worry about being judged or negatively evaluated. And different settings can trigger social anxiety for different people. So for example, some people are really worried about giving a speech or a presentation in front of others. Others might be worried about meeting new people or going to a party full of hipsters or having to talk to people they wouldn't normally talk to. For others, social anxiety could be triggered by something relatively mundane, like eating a meal in front of others or standing in a line. It could be anything. With social anxiety, there's a phenomenon that I wanted to talk about called the spotlight effect. Now, the spotlight effect is a normal bias that all of us humans have, which is when we overestimate the degree to which people are focusing on us. It literally feels like there's a big spotlight shining down on us, and often we feel that the judgment coming from others is negative. And the spotlight effect actually becomes more salient when we behave in an unusual or atypical way. So, great example, you're walking down the street feeling really good, and all of a sudden, boom, trip over. It feels like everyone's watching you and everybody has noticed, but there's actually a chance that not nearly as many people as you thought had noticed have actually noticed the situation. So we humans are very good at overestimating the degree that others are focusing on us. And it makes sense because we're the center of our own world. But keep in mind, it might feel like everybody's noticing and everybody's judging, but us humans are quite self-centered creatures. So a lot of people are probably busy thinking about their own stuff and busy thinking about what other people think of them. So social anxiety can be a normal thing. But sometimes when social anxiety increases and interferes with our day-to-day lives in some way, it can become a bit of a problem. So that's when it might become social anxiety disorder or social phobia. So when does it become a problem? When you start to have a more persistent and pervasive pattern of problems, we psychologists love a good alliteration. Basically, in plain English, what I mean is that when social anxiety starts to interfere with us going to work or making new friends or forming relationships, that's when it's really important to seek help. People with social anxiety disorder have an intense fear of social situations where they could be negatively evaluated. And they often worry that others will perceive their behavior as offensive or embarrassing or humiliating, or they might worry that others will see that they're anxious and they'll judge that in a negative way. Often people with social anxiety disorder will avoid social situations at all costs, or if they do go, they endure it with intense anxiety and discomfort, so it's not a nice thing. So if you're worried that you might be experiencing social anxiety disorder, I'd really encourage you to speak to a GP or to a psychologist. But for those of us who experience a normal level of social anxiety, I wanted to share a few tips that you can try to feel more confident in some of those trickier social situations. So it might be having to go to a conference and talk to a whole lot of, really kind of boring and impressive people, or going to the hipster party, or whatever it might be. How can you feel more confident? So tip number 1 is be present. I know this sounds simple, but often in social situations, we're so caught up in our own thoughts and worries, then we start to turn our attention inwards. So we might even start to notice our heart beating, or we might start to notice the tension in our bodies. And then we become less involved in the social situation and we're less able to really be present and enjoy it. So a really simple trick: when you walk into the room, take a moment to use all your senses. Notice 5 things you can see, have a bit of a look around. Notice 5 things you can hear, might be music playing, people chatting, sample the snacks. Lots of things you can do to get present, but using your senses, really being in the moment, is a great way to help disconnect from some of those unhelpful thoughts that are likely to stop you from really having fun anyway. Tip number 2, consider your body language. Often when we're feeling anxious, what happens is we change our body language, and instead of appearing confident and approachable, we actually start to close up a little bit. We might hunch or really protect ourselves, or kind of hide away as much as we can. and often that makes us feel a lot less confident. Changing your body language, so making yourself taller, pulling your shoulders back, opening your body language up, all of those things can actually make us feel more confident on the inside. And sometimes it can help us kind of fake it till we make it. So we might not necessarily be confident, but appearing confident can help us get in that mindset where we feel like we look confident and others start to approach us as well. So consider your body language. There's a great TED talk by Amy Cuddy on power posing that I encourage you to watch if you want a little bit more information about body language. Tip number 3. Let go of unhelpful thoughts. Often we have lots of unhelpful thoughts in social situations, so we might catastrophize and worry about everything that could go wrong. We might use an unhelpful thinking style called mind reading, so we might assume that we know what other people are thinking. We might assume that we know that they're judging us in a negative way, but we actually don't know what others are thinking, and trying to predict that doesn't actually make us feel good. So reminding ourselves that there's no evidence that we know what others are thinking, let it go if you can. And last tip, this is a really uncomfortable one, but get out of your comfort zone. When we start a pattern of avoidance, often it actually reinforces our anxiety because we never get the chance to actually try the thing that we're afraid of and succeed at being confident in social situations. Avoidance is the easy answer and it makes us feel safe short term, but overcoming social anxiety takes practice and putting ourselves in these situations so we can prove that we can have a conversation with someone and nothing bad will happen. So maybe start small, start with some simple challenges. It might not be going to a big party or giving a presentation in front of 100 people. It might just be talking to one person in a meeting, or it might be talking to a small group of people in a social situation. So set yourself small and achievable challenges. The more practice you get, the more you can prove to yourself that it's not so scary after all. So they're my top tips on helping to reduce social anxiety and feel more comfortable in social settings. But like I said, if you're worried that these problems are interfering with your day-to-day life, really important to talk to your GP or a psychologist. Thanks guys for tuning in to today's episode of Pop Therapy TV. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I'd love it if you could please subscribe to my YouTube channel so I can keep you up to date with all my latest vlogs. Thanks guys, bye!